What's up, boys and girls? Richie here. Another episode of the Flip Side with Richie Flip. Another, episode where we're gonna go down memory lane for a little bit. This won't be a long one, I don't think. But I just kind of was thinking about that time I met Eddie Van Halen. Yeah, it was interesting. So let's kind of go down that road, memory lane, go into the Wayback Machine. I'll tell you how it happened. So big Van Halen fan, big Eddie Van Halen fan, and even to the extent where is that when I was younger, I mean I guess 1984 was the first album where I really was introduced to Van Halen. I knew about stuff on Fair Warning, I knew about Diver Down, but it wasn't until I got to 1984 where I was really diving deep into not diving deep into the catalog, but just knowing more about the band, I guess, right, and knowing what they were all about. Uh, and then at some point down the road, I'm going to kind of jump around here. I started learning how to play the guitar. Um, and most people will say Eddie Van Halen was an influence, and that's why I learned to play the guitar. To an extent, yes. But when I realized how good of a guitar player he was and the innovator side of things and how he was doing things with the tapping, two-hand tapping, and the whammy bar, and just everything else he was doing, I realized that's not what I want to do. I'll never be able to do that. I'm not even going to try. Let me carve out a different area here. And I'm not a shredder. I love Satriani and Steve Vai and Eric Johnson, Gary Hoey. All these people I love as I've kind of progressed in my musical journey as far as playing guitar. I just realized I didn't want to do that. And I'm more like a David Gilmour style where it's kind of like all about the feeling and the soul and just, playing a little bit slower. And that's kind of where my stuff went and more on the acoustic side of, things nowadays. But I've always been a Van Halen fan. Always, always, always have been a Van Halen fan. The first, I saw them three times. The first time I saw them, it was not with Roth. It was with Sammy Hagar on the Balance tour, 1995, and it was at the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, New York. Right, so it was a great show. Collective Soul opened up, and I think it was the last show for Collective Soul in the supporting spot for that tour for Van Halen, and they were amazing. They were fantastic. It just 1995. You didn't have a whole lot of people with cameras or phones, and it just wasn't a thing. And I can't really find a whole lot of videos anywhere on that particular show from Albany, but it was a good time. And then all of a sudden, you've got Hagar, and Hagar's no longer in the band, and here comes Gary Cherone. I don't want to get too deep into the whole Gary Cherone era of the band, even though I liked it. It was a musical departure with the album. It was more experimental. The tour was phenomenal because Gary was a team player. They played the new stuff, they played the Roth stuff, they played the Hagar stuff, and he had a vocal range that covered everything. Um, you can sit there and say, well, I didn't go because it wasn't Roth, it wasn't Hagar. Yeah, it's cool. I went just because it was Van Halen and they put on a phenomenal show. We're not going to get into that. However, it was St. Patrick's Day, March 17th of 1998. I don't remember what led up to it or the promotions that went on for it, but probably within a week or 2 weeks before that particular date, that it had been announced that Van Halen was going to be doing an appearance at the Virgin Megastore at the time. I don't think it's still there anymore, in Times Square. And then actually they were going to be on MTV, which is right across the street. So it was like a 6 o'clock show. Was it Total Request? Whatever it might have been, one of those shows. They were on, and then they kind of did this big march across the street, and they went to the Virgin Megastore where everybody was in line to get, to meet the band. The album had just dropped that day, the new album, 3. And it was a Wednesday. I'm almost positive it was a Wednesday because I didn't go to work that day. And I just went into the city, and I'm like, all right, let's see how this goes. I got online at the Virgin Megastore. I might have been like the fifth person in line. And over the course of the day, the line just kept growing and growing, and it was around the block. Wasn't until I was there for several hours that it started to come to my attention that you had to have some type of ticket. You had to have something in hand, like a reservation, whatever you want to call it, to get in the door. And I was like, oh, this is not good. Because I had been there for a while, everyone had something in front of me, and I was like, I am screwed. So the Night went on, everything kept going on, and when the doors opened for the fans to go in and see what was happening, to meet the band, I couldn't get in. I was actually, the people in front of me went in, they stopped me at the door, and I just stood there. I watched everyone else go and go and go. I don't know how long I mean, the whole day was like a 7 hour day or an 8 hour day. But I don't remember how long I was waiting at that front door. And then some people had come out, and I don't remember how the conversation started or what happened, but someone said, "Hey, I got an extra ticket. Hey, do you need it?" And they looked right at me. I don't. So I guess someone didn't show up in their party, gave me that stub or that ticket, and I walked in the door. I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm actually going to meet this band." And you come in on the upper level, and you can look down, and you see the band sitting there. Tables, which were eye level, so they were kind of up on a platform. So when you walked by and you got down there, you're standing and they're sitting, but you're eye level. And I don't remember how long it took, but I got there. I do remember that the sun was shining when I got there, and by the time I left, it was dark. That's how long it was. So I got you eventually just kind of weave your way down like you're at a ride in Disney World, right? And you get down there, and then you get to the point where there's their handlers, and they were signing almost anything you put in front of them. It wasn't like they just wanted to sign the CD, which they did. And I've got it somewhere hanging. I don't know where it is. It's hanging somewhere maybe. I know I have it though. It might be in one of my closets here. I just haven't hung it back up since we moved back down to Charlotte. And you get to, and you're getting nervous now. It's like almost and they were set up side by side. First person you came to is Michael Anthony, and the handler said, "What's your name?" And I said, "It was Rich." And I got a post-it note. She put my name down, and I guess she put it on the items I was going to have signed, the CD insert. And she goes, "Mike," and he was talking to somebody, and he turned around and goes, "This is Rich." And he goes, "Hey man, good to see you. I mean, nicest guy in the world. If you don't know anything about Michael Anthony, even today, just super nice. What you see on social media." He was the same way back then when I met him, in 1998. So that was a blast. Said, "Thanks for the music. The album's great." I go, "Oh man, thanks very much." And then you kind of move right down to the assembly line, and Alex was next, and he had his back turned and wasn't paying attention at all. Looked like he was pretty busy. And I said, "What can I say to get his attention?" I said, "Well, I like the album, so hey man, listen to the album. It sounds really good." He turned around and shook my hand. He goes, "Thank you very much. We appreciate that." Walked right down. Gary Cherone was next, and which was super cool. We had a conversation, and one of the things I did with some of the people in line was like, "Hey, when you get there, I'll take your picture. Then when I get there, you take my picture, and we're all using each other's cameras, right?" So we did that. So I had somebody kind of lined up to take the picture with me and Gary Cherone. Like, all right, cool. He's like, "Yeah, I'll take a picture, man." And I kind of just turned around so my back was to the table, and like before I knew it, his arm is around me, and I got the picture somewhere. I have, if I could ever, if you follow my socials, I've posted them every so often. But he kind of put his arm around me, and he smiled, and I was like, "That's cool, dude." That was very cool. And then the final person in line was the king himself, Eddie Van Halen. I'm a guitar player, been playing for several years at this point. And what do you say? "Hey, man, good to meet." You don't know what to say to one of the people that, again, I not that he was an influence the way he should have been an influence, but he was an influence, even though he didn't influence me. It was royalty. It was rock royalty. It was guitar player royalty. And I remember saying, "Hey man, love the music, such an inspiration musically." And he's like, "Yeah, man, that's cool. That's cool." I go, "Do you mind if we take a picture?" He goes, "No, man, cool, let's do it." So I remember I turned around and I took, if you can, I got to go back and look at this picture because just such a trip. And I put my hand up on the table, like giving a thumbs up, right? Just to kind of give like a thumbs up, and someone's gonna take my picture. And I'm telling you, what happened next was like an out of body experience for a guitar player. He came up behind me. I don't remember if he put his arm around me. No, he didn't. You know why? Because what he did was he gave a thumbs up. Because you can see, it was funny. He gave a thumbs up, and his thumb was all blue because he had been just signing stuff with Sharpie all day. That he had a blue thumb. But the other hand, he took my hand and was holding my hand as he was giving the thumbs up, and it was like, oh, the king just touched me. It was like being touched by God. So it was wild, man. It was just incredible. Um, and I just walked out of there going, "What just happened here?" Because you knew it was never going to happen again. And, most people don't get to be in that position. And it was like, that's how I met Eddie Van Halen. I met Alex Van Halen, Gary Cherone, and Michael Anthony. It was wild. It was a good experience. It's one of those things you'll never forget. Like I said, I still have the things that they signed for me. I've got my photo of Eddie, my photo of Gary Cherone. Wish I had taken one with Alex, and I know Michael would have taken one with me. It just never happened. So, um, it's pretty wild when you think about it, right? So, um, but again, I can't remember what I did yesterday, what I had for breakfast, a week ago. But I can tell you, March 17th, 1998, where I was and who I was hanging with. So, uh, curious if you had that kind of experience as well, where you kind of they say never meet your idols, right? Well, this was a good time to meet your idol because it was awesome back then. So, hey, thanks for sticking around. This is me kind of just talking about some trips down memory lane here. Uh, I appreciate you listening to me this and the other podcasts with the flip side with Richie Flip. More to come down the road. So be good, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.